Hello and welcome to our first edition of Biblical Exegesis Practicum online. My name is Ryan Litton and I will be your professor for this course. Exegesis Practicum, or sometimes just referred to as Practicum, is my favorite course. It was one of my favorite courses that I took when I was a student at Life, and it's been probably my favorite course to teach over these past years that I've been teaching for Life. I teach out here in the Extension campus in Christiansburg, Virginia, Life Pacific University, Virginia, and I've been teaching here for about 10 years. And I love this course. This is just one of my favorite courses, and so I hope that my passion for the course will infect you, and that you will also love this course. If you have any questions or any concerns about the workload at any point, feel free to email me. We can set up some time to do a Zoom call, and I'd be happy to talk you through any of the issues in the course. But let's just go ahead and take a look at the course outline, because that's the first thing that we need to do for any course. Our course description is through the deductive and inductive study of biblical passages. Students will refine the methodological skills acquired in biblical languages and exegesis. Students will also learn the principles necessary to interpret Old and New Testament texts in light of their literary genre. We have 5 major worksheets in this course, and each of those will follow a specific genre. We have a legal passage, which will be the 10 Commandments. We have a poetry passage, which is Jonah's prayer in Jonah chapter 2. We have a narrative passage, which is 1 Samuel 15, which pertains to Saul as king and his interactions with Samuel. Then we have a parable assignment, which will be in Luke 15. It's actually 3 parables. It's the parable of the lost coin, parable of the lost sheep, and then the parable of what is often referred to as the prodigal son, though probably better to say the lost son, because it's paralleling the first 2 parables as well. And then our final assignment will be in the epistles. And since Life Pacific is a Foursquare institution, we believe in women in ministry in every possible role and every level of authority. One of the passages that we want to tackle is 1 Timothy 2. 1 Timothy 2 ostensibly says that women shouldn't preach or teach or have authority over men. And so we want to take a look at that, and we want to see why do we think that that's not how we should interpret it. My first published paper was on this topic, and specifically on this passage. So I'm really excited to get an opportunity to work with you on this passage. It's really important to me personally that we understand this passage well, and not just sort of sweep it under the rug. But actually take it on head on and try to figure out, what do we mean when we talk about this passage? What do we mean when we talk about women in ministry? What do we believe about that? And what is our basis for that belief? That's really, really important. For the remainder of the course outline, you can see at the top I have a link for office hours where you can schedule a meeting with me. If you click on this link, it will take you to Calendly, which will allow you to see what my availability is and schedule a meeting with me there. Course textbooks, I'm really excited for this. This will be my first time teaching this course with this version of the textbooks. These are Zondervan enhanced editions. And the really exciting thing about this is that this is an online textbook that includes lectures from the authors, which means I won't be the principal voice that you'll learn from in this course. And though I love talking about these topics, I also have a really high value on letting other people speak into your lives. And I never want to be the major voice in any of my students' lives. I'll always want other people speaking in as well. And these authors, you're going to read them, but getting to hear them is just a whole other level. It's so awesome to get to read the chapter and then hear the author talk about the chapter as well. Just helps cement those concepts. and I think it's going to be really, really enjoyable for you. The two textbooks are How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth by Fee and Stewart, which are classic, is a classic in biblical interpretation. This is just one of those texts that everybody uses. I used it when I was at Life Pacific. Then I went on to get my master's degree at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary. Fee and Stewart both have taught at Gordon Conwell. Stewart is still at Gordon Conwell. Fee, I believe, is retired at this point. But even at Gordon Conwell, these are the textbooks that we used. This is just a staple in biblical interpretation. And the same goes with Introduction to Biblical Interpretation by Klein, Blomberg, and Hubbard. This is in its third edition. Fee and Stewart's in its fourth edition. And these two textbooks are just standards. In this course, we will have weekly lecture videos, likely coming from me in this office. This is my office here in Christiansburg, Virginia, and so probably going to be lecturing to you from my desk here with all of my, nerdy stuff here. I've got my little Captain America bobblehead here, and I don't know if Gandalf is out of frame, but I've got my Gandalf Funko Pop, and he's standing beside Minas Tirith here with Aragorn's sword lodged in it, and so got lots of nerdy stuff here. I love Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Marvel and all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm wearing Stormtrooper socks today. So, but those are the lecture videos. That's what we're going to be doing each week. I'll have usually 2 lecture videos for you, helping to work you through the projects that we're going to be working on. And I'm going to try to help you establish at least some of your work through the videos, so that if you follow along with me in the video, you'll actually be working through a lot of what you have to do in the assignment itself. So that way you aren't just left alone to kind of figure it out, but I'll actually be kind of working through it with you. Then we'll have forum discussions. The forum discussions are going to be in response to the readings and the videos with Fee and Stewart or Klein, Blomberg, and Hubbard. And so whatever you read and or watch in there, there will be specific discussion posts for that. These posts are going to be due Friday at midnight, and that midnight is Pacific time. Though I'm in Christiansburg, Life Pacific's main campus is in San Dimas, California, as you must know already, I'm sure. And so wherever you are in the world, Moodle, which is the learning management software that we're going to use for this course, is going to be working off of Pacific Coast time. And just for the sake of consistency for all of us, it's just easiest if we're all talking about the same time zone, right? Even if we're not living in that time zone, if Moodle is working off Pacific time, then we're all going to work off Pacific time. So they'll be due by midnight, and then you're going to need to respond to other posts by Sunday at midnight. And so you'll have 2 days to read other people's posts and then respond to them. You really need to try to stick to these deadlines as closely as you can. I understand if things happen, that's fine. If you've got to let something go because crazy things are happening in your life, the forum discussions are probably the thing to let go. I would not let go of the interpretation worksheets. Those are really high priority. But really do try to engage with these as quickly and as timely as you possibly can. Reading will be required for the discussion posts and also for the interpretation worksheets. Be very clear for each of the discussion posts and each of the reflection or the interpretation worksheets what your requirements are, what you need to read, how to get to it, that sort of thing. Because there will be some things that you have to read outside of our textbooks, but it'll just be like an article here, article there, and I'll give you access to those so you can see how to get to them. And then there's the interpretation worksheets. Interpretation worksheets, like I said, there's 5 of them. and they cover those 5 specific genres. Okay. The way to the grading for the course, each discussion post is going to be about 7.5% of your grade, which is less than the weight of the worksheets. And this is why I said if you've got to let something go, then letting one discussion post go isn't going to hurt you as much as letting a worksheet go. Now, obviously, it's my desire that you complete everything fully and on time, but I understand that life gets in the way sometimes, and it is what it is. If you communicate with me and you do have a legitimate excuse that's like a legitimate emergency, or something like that, I'm happy to work with you on extensions. But the difficulty with an 8-week course is there's just not that much time for extensions, and so we want to try to avoid that if at all possible. But that said, I mean, I'm human. I understand. I've had to ask for extensions in grad school. I'm working on my PhD right now. I just had to ask for an extension for my literature review. These things happen. And so, just communicate with me and we'll see what we can do. Okay. So discussion posts, 7.5% each. The worksheets, the first 3, the law project, the poetry project, and the narrative project, are all 10% each, because I want you to kind of get your feet under you, right? And so I don't want to weight those too much, because you're still kind of adjusting to what it looks like to do one of these projects in this short amount of time. Then the last 2 projects, it's my hope that by the time you get to the parable project, you kind of get a feel for what you're doing, and you won't need as much assistance, and you'll kind of be able to just jump into it, and you won't be quite as nervous about it. And so the parable project and the letter project are 20% each, and so that gives us our total of 100%. So basic grading criteria, you've seen this kind of stuff before. The only point that I need to make here is that you should be aware, and you may not be, because not everybody makes this point, but you'll note here in the basic grading criteria that an A demonstrates outstanding mastery and a B demonstrates appropriate mastery. And so that means that if you're expecting an A out of the course, that's impressive work. That's not just the bare minimum. If you're just checking off all the boxes and just kind of getting done what you need to get done, that's not necessarily a work. And so you shouldn't necessarily expect an A out of the class if you're not producing work that is outstanding mastery of the subject. And basically what this comes down to, it doesn't mean that you need to write more, it just means that what you write should be better. And this is just a function of thinking more about it, working more through it, devoting actual time and energy to it, as opposed to just sort of like trying to push through and just get things done, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's the stage of life that you're in, if that's where you're at, that's what you got to do, then that's what you got to do. But if you want an A out of the course, the best thing for you to do is to really set aside the time to really carefully think through everything that's happening, really carefully think through what you're doing, and devote serious time to your work so that it can reflect the amount of time that you've put into it. And as a result, you have outstanding mastery of the subject. Interpretation worksheet due dates, just generally speaking, I don't accept late work. Unless there's just a really great reason for it. That's just not something that I'm going to do. It's not good for you. It's not good for me. It's just not a good idea. Like I said before, if there's something going on in your life, like, let's talk about it. It may mean that you need to withdraw from the course, if something serious happens, God forbid. Or may mean that we need to, file an incomplete, and you can kind of get it done a little bit later. But communicate. That's the main thing, right? Communicate. If you keep me apprised of what's going on, then we can figure it out, figure out what the best thing to do is, okay? If anything happens where I need to adjust the course, I will send out a course email through Moodle. I'll also post announcements in Moodle so that you're aware of what's going on. Generally speaking, I'm not going to make any changes because the course outline is what it is, and that is basically our contract with one another that I've agreed that this is what we're going to do in this course. And so I'm going to try to avoid making any kind of changes to that because that's what we've agreed to. But if something happens and I have to make an adjustment, then I'll make sure that I'll let you know for that, okay? For style policy, if you are not very good at writing, then I would strongly encourage you to get people to proofread for you. There's the Academic Support Center, right? If you need academic support, then ask, right? ASC. Lucy Sanders and the people that work there just do phenomenal work. And so reach out to them and get somebody to proofread your assignment. If you want to send an assignment to me early for me to look at it, I'm happy to do that. I'm not going to give you a grade necessarily, but I will, scan the assignment and kind of see what things pop out to me, and I'll make some notes and send it back to you. They won't be exhaustive because I don't know that I'll have time for exhaustive, thorough grading ahead of you turning it in for me to actually grade. But I'm happy to look at it and give you some pointers and do what I can do to make it a little bit better for you. That said, if you don't avail yourself of any of these resources and your writing has grammatical or syntactical mistakes, spelling mistakes, that sort of thing, you will lose credit for that. Even if you do everything perfectly correct, but as far as the expectations for the assignment, but your grammar and your syntax are just a mess, you're not going to get any better than 85 on that assignment. Up to 15% for your assignment can be deducted just for grammar and syntax. Okay, and the point here is that you can't be an effective communicator of the gospel if you're not an effective communicator. And so you need to work through how you communicate your points, right? That as you're typing things out, you tend to type the way that you talk. And sometimes one of those things is out of step with the other, right? Your extemporaneous speech may not necessarily be polished and academic in nature. And so you're going to want to make sure that you get somebody to read through this stuff for you so that you can make sure that it's polished and it's good. Now, some of you may be good writers at this stage in your academic career. You may have polished that already, and that's fantastic. But just want to make sure that you're aware of the resources that are available to you. For plagiarism, please just don't plagiarize. If you have a question about whether or not you should cite it or how you should cite it or any of that kind of stuff, just let me know. Just let me know, and I'm happy to help you with that. Just don't plagiarize. I promise you, it's really easy to pick out things that aren't your voice. Easy example of this is I had a student in this course, actually, though it was the first semester that I taught it, who wrote this nomen tetragrammaton, and then the rest of the sentence doesn't even matter. It's a 200 level class. No one taking that class knows what nomen tetragrammaton means. I do. Nomen is the Latin word for name, and tetragrammaton comes from the fusion of two Greek words, which means having four letters. And so nomen tetragrammaton is the name having four letters, which is Yahweh, which is Yod, He, Vav, He. It's the divine name. But he didn't know that, right? The student didn't know that. And so that stuck out like a sore thumb. I Googled the sentence, and the sentence was a footnote in Wikipedia. So that kind of stuff, it sticks out, right? Professors look at assignments all day long, and we are aware of what sounds like you and what doesn't sound like you. So don't try to sneak one by on us, because we'll see it. The class schedule at the end of the course outline, you can see here very clearly. We have the lectures, and then we have the assignments. Okay, so this is our first lecture. This is our introduction to the course. This is going to be a little bit short, and so I'll probably add one more quick one on the legal worksheet, just kind of reading through what is the legal worksheet and what do you need to do for that. And then in our next lecture, we'll actually do some of the legal worksheet together. Okay, so we'll actually probably have 3 lectures this week. We're just going to break the first one into 2. So we'll introduce the course in this video. The next video, we'll discuss the worksheet. And then in the third video, we'll do some of the legal worksheet together, especially the structural analysis. Because structural analysis is one of those things that if it hasn't been properly explained to you, then it's going to be really confusing. And when you get into upper division Bible classes, you're going to have to do structural analysis, and you really need to know how to do that. It's really, really important. By the end of this first week, you need to have 1 discussion post done, and you'll complete your legal worksheet. Now, your legal worksheet is not very long. It's not very difficult. It's not very complicated. The bulk of it, the most confusing part of it, is probably going to be the structural analysis. And we're going to do a lot of the structural analysis together in a video. So I don't want you to panic about that. Okay. Then the following week, we're going to do poetry. And notice that week, you just have a discussion post, which means that you're effectively going to have 2 weeks to work on your poetry worksheet, which means there's going to be a little bit more work involved in the poetry worksheet. Okay, so just so you're prepared. Then the week after that, notice you only have 1 week for your narrative worksheet, so there'll be a little less work for that. The week after that, you've got a discussion post again, and then the week following, you have a parable worksheet. So again, you're going to have a little bit more work on the parable worksheet, but you'll have 2 weeks to do it. And the pattern follows again, discussion post number 4 in week 7, and then the letter worksheet in week 8. Okay, and so the assignments like legal and narrative that only have 1 week are going to be shorter and easier. The assignments that are longer, that you're given 2 weeks for, are going to be a little bit harder. But again, we're going to work through a lot of this stuff in videos together. Okay. Like I said before, if you have any questions at all, if there's anything in this course that's frustrating to you, confusing to you, anything like that, I've been doing this for 10 years. You probably are not going to ask me a question that I have not heard before, so do not feel bad about reaching out. Send me an email. Happy to talk to you through email. Happy to talk to you over the phone, talk over Zoom, whatever. That'd be fine with me, and I can clarify this stuff for you.